Welcome everyone to the webinar We4F South and Southeast Asia. And as you may see in the previous slide, with a bit of housekeeping, that if you're not saying, you might need to be on mute. And this session is being recorded. So please do note that. And if you're not feeling comfortable that this session will be recorded and shared and uploaded on website, please let us know. And last but not least, if you have any question, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and we'll respond to all of your questions as much as possible during this session. If there is any question that we cannot provide the response during this time because of the time limit or any other reason, we will respond to that in the FAQ document, which will also be uploaded onto We4F website. But without further ado, let's kickstart. And in today's session, you will meet three of the hub representatives. One is myself. I'm Bes Ratasuri. I'm the hub manager for We4F South and Southeast Asia. You also meet Sasmita, who is our technical assistant facilitator, and she is also our general advisor. You also hear from Mukesh, who is our grant and finance specialist and managing the grant aspects of the hub. So you'll meet three of us in this session, but as you may see on our We4F website, you can type we4f.org/Asia. You will see a lot of country coordinator across the country that we work in, especially, for example, in Nepal, Vietnam, and Indonesia and Cambodia. So they are also with us today as well. In case you have any country-specific question, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and our team can respond to you. So we'll talk about four things, and there'll be four sections during this time. One is I'll give you a bit of program overview, and I'll just walk through the process and the key elements of the open call for innovation, and then how to submit your concept note. And then I'll give the floor to Sasmita and Mukesh to go through the previously submitted questions that people ask in our email. All right, let's get started. As mentioned, please mute yourself. This session is being recorded, and if you have any questions, type in the chat box. So just give a bit of background. So We4F is a joint initiative of a couple of governments, starting with the German Federation, BMZ, the European Union, the Dutch government, Norwegian through NORAD, CEDA, and USAID. For We4F South and Southeast Asia particularly, it's funded by all of these founding partners, but managed by USAID. So therefore, a lot of regulation that we need to follow is based on US Agency for International Development, or USAID. And then in the next slides, we're going to walk through about the impact of We4F. So there are a couple of things that we has been doing in the past couple of years. One is we promote food production in the value chain. So basically, we promote the food production and processing, and with a touch on water and or energy. So we find and support the innovator who can produce and process food more and more while using less and less water and energy. We also focus on women and also people at the base of the pyramid. So as you may see in the indicator and area that we assess the applications, BOP or people at the base of the pyramid, and women will be two of the key elements when we assess the impact of the hub, and thus the applicant as well. And we also support the innovator to sustainably scale, meaning that We4F will be ended at some point. They should be able to stay longer than We4F and be self-sustainable in terms of environment, in terms of social, and of course, economic sustainability as well. Last but not least, we promote climate resilient development and also biodiversity and anything on the ecosystem and natural resource management as well, especially water. Now, in the next slides, we're going to see that in South and Southeast Asia, we aim to support 40 innovators by now until 2025. And we aim to onboard all of them, hopefully by mid next year. So therefore, we'll have about a year with all of the innovators that will be onboarded through the O-CFI process. We work in 15 countries across the region and based in Bangkok. But as I mentioned before, that we have a team in India, we have team member in Indonesia, Cambodia, Nepal, and Vietnam as well. So please feel free to reach out to our country representative in case you have and you want to learn more about the program. But if you have any questions about O-CFI, please feel free to send it to the email that we're going to give to you at the very end of this presentation. By the end of the program, we aim to support 1 million smallholder farmers, and 1/4 of that should be women. In terms of the investment, we aim to facilitate $20 million worth of the investment through the support of our brokering unit. And as mentioned previously, gender, environmental sustainability, and BOP, or people of the base or pyramids, are another key elements of the hub that we focus on. If we talk about the impact of the hub, to date, we have onboarded and identified 32 innovators. Almost actually half of it is actually women. And all of these innovators are from 8 countries across South and Southeast Asia. We have already had like 47 million USD worth of deal in our pipeline, and 7 million of it has already been closed by the hub in the past 2 years. We also have resource called matching fund, and we have redeployed about 10,000 USD of the matching fund already to date. In terms of the end user impact, $500,000 of the end user has been supported by our innovator, and almost half of the person that we supported and end user that we have outreach and supported are actually women, and almost all of the end user they're working with are people at the base of pyramids. Another thing that we do, and you can gain benefit from being part of the hub and cohort, is the technical assistance. We have already provided more than 70 technical assistants to date, and that can be anything from business development, investment readiness, gender integrations, partnership, and policy, and legal, and end user financing. So basically, if you have any key pains or any challenge that you have that prevent you from scaling, you can come and discuss to us, and we can provide a technical assistance to you as well. It's also good to note that while we have the internal pool of experts, for example, Susmita is as our gender experts, we have experts on communications, on environments, on investment readiness, but there are some things that require the local knowledge and local know-how as well. And therefore, for that case, we will have the other person or other company to provide the technical assistant on behalf of the hub. And therefore, we can ensure that the technical assistance you receive is localized to fit your needs and in the local context as well. Now, you can see these are the innovator that we have in the cohort to date. You can look at their logos, and if you find any of logos that look familiar to you, please feel free to reach out to any of them to ask about their experience being onboarded as the WeFref innovator. Now, I'll move next to the support that you can provide, like what has been mandated for. First is technical assistance. As mentioned before, we provide the technical assistance that help you scale. We also have the brokering unit, which will help mobilize the fund and investment for our innovator. So in case, for example, if some of you is looking for additional investment, we have the brokering unit to support you on investment readiness and also deal closing as well. On the bottom left, you will see the enabling environment icons, and that means if you have any challenge on partnership or policy or legal framework, that will be some area that we can work with you as well to help you overcome those challenges. And of course, end user financing is another key area that we're working with, just to ensure that all of your innovation is accessible and affordable by people at the base of our pyramid as well. Now, I'll talk about the O-CFI, or Open Call for Innovation. I'll give you a bit of the overview about that. So basically, through this O-CFI process, we aim to co-create scalable solutions for your innovation in these regions. We will also help you to deploy and scale through the combination of technical assistance, investment facilitation, enabling environment, and of course, grant as well. I'll talk a bit about the grant that we will give up to 200,000 USD worth of grant. And this will be a matching grant, meaning that you will be required to match at least $1 to $1 for you to be qualified for this grant. But Mukesh is with us today as well, and he'll walk you through the grant requirement and any other additional information as well. As mentioned previously, all of the grants will be ended before or on or in March 2025. It is based on the period performance is based on how do you plan to scale and the budget as well. Now, you may ask about the process. So what is the process? First, of course, I assume that all of you here are interested in O-CFI, and therefore the very first step is to look at the solicitation document, which is uploaded online on WeFref website. If you look at the solicitation documents, you found that, okay, this is the perfect fit for you, and we want to work together. You can then submit your concept note, and once you submit your concept note, we'll have the team to review your concept note. And if you pass the concept note stage, you'll be invited to submit the full proposal. So the concept note will give us and the evaluator a general idea about how do you plan to scale, who are you, do you want to work with any partner in the country, what is your impact in terms of ESG, how many end users you have already had, how do you plan to scale. While in the full proposal, we'll ask more in depth in all of the three aspects, from business side to innovation side and to ESG side as well. So it gives the full picture of your scale of your plan to scale. In the full proposal stage, in case that you pass the full proposal stage, we will then start the co-creation process to co-develop the acceleration work plan. And in this work plan, it will lay out how we both party, us and you, gonna work together to support you to scale. Now is the tricky part, the very interesting part. So there are two tracks. For example, if you just want a TA, meaning you don't want any support on grant, you just want us to help you on technical assistance or investment facilitation without the grant element. We can start working within 1 or 2 months after you've passed the full proposal stage, if not sooner. But if you want the matching grant as well, there will be a few more steps that you need to do. First is the pre-award survey and compliance assessment, meaning that you will be required to submit quite a few documents to our grant and finance specialist, which is this case Mukesh. And Mukesh will assess all of your pre-award requirements, documents, and ensure that you are comply with the US government regulations and all of the donors' requirement. After that, we will also conduct a site visit before we give any one of you a grant, just to ensure that you really comply with all of the requirements of the government, and at the same time, to ensure that you don't create any negative impact on environment and the social and society around you and your site. Last but not least, if you require grants, all of the proposal will need to be presented to the founding partner, which are all of the donors that I presented at the very beginning. And only after the donor approve your proposal and all of the assessment that the hub have already done for you, you'll be onboarded right away after that. So this is the overall process of the O-CFI, but if you want to see more information, you can see the section of O-CFI process in the solicitation document. I'll walk through a bit about the eligibility. So who are we working with and what we are not planning to support, basically. The first part is about the yes part. So we will say yes to any innovation that come with a clear linkage to the WeFref or water, energy, food nexus. You should already have financial sustainable business model as well. And the third one is really important. So basically, if your innovation costs more than 100 USD, you should have at least 1,000 end user. And Sasmita is going to talk about end user after this. So you get the idea how you calculate the end user as well and how different it is between the end user and customer. And if your product is less than 100 USD, you will be required to have more than 5,000 end user. On the no side, so obviously, if you don't have any linkage to We4Ever Water Energy Food Nexus, as much like you can be the best innovation that we can find out, but if there is no linkage to food production or agriculture or food processing, or with a linkage on energy and water, our hand might be tied and we might not be able to support you in this case, at least in the capacity of We4Ever Hub. Another no part is that if you don't have the positive impact on the poor, the women, or environment, that might not be the best. This might not be the best area for you as well, because as mentioned, the people at the base of our pyramid, women, and the environmental sustainability are the key and the core of the hub as well, beyond business sustainability. Another key important part is that if you are in the R&D stage, this might not be the place for you. Not that it's not good, but because of the limited capacity of the hub, we are allowed to work more with the growth stage innovator. So basically, if you are in the R&D stage, there are a lot of other programs that you can be part of, a lot of other accelerator that you can be part of in the region as well. And we are also working with all of those accelerators so that we can source some of their graduated innovator to be part of our cohort as well. Another two part that is really important for us is that if you're working on any infrastructure projects, unfortunately, we're not allowed to support you as well. For example, if you're planning to build a dam, that might not be something that we can work with. And last but not least, any government entity or individuals cannot apply. So these are the couple of the yes and the no in terms of the eligibility. At the very bottom, you can also see that if you want to know and hear more and see more about the eligibility and the criteria, you can look at the page 12 to 17 in the solicitation document as well. And another thing I want to mention is about the type of the innovator that we support. As mentioned earlier in the previous slide, we mainly will support mid to late stage enterprise. But this doesn't mean that you need to be for-profit company only. And as you can see from a lot of logos that presented earlier, we have a good mix of private company and a non-profit organization as well. So it can be, if you are NPO, if you're NGO, if you're profit organization, even if you are a university or academia, you are encouraged to apply as well, as long as you have the scalable innovations with a sustainable business model. We also, as mentioned, we tend to work a lot more to promote food production with a touch on energy and water saving elements. And the ESG part has been the key. So all of the innovators that we support have these elements of supporting the poor, supporting the women, and supporting environmental sustainability. Last but not least, biodiversity and climate adaptation has been increasingly important and prioritized at our hub as well. Now, next to the thematic area. So there are 6 themes of the innovations that we have. First, innovation in food production that reduce water usage. Second, efficient use of water resources for food productions. Third, sustainable use of energy and water on farm. Fourth, energy innovation for food processing and logistics. Fifth, food production with energy efficiency use. And last but not least, leveraging food waste for energy. So as you can see, it's a full spectrum of full production from end to end. And you can see, if you're curious, like, okay, will our innovation fit with one of these? You can see all of the logos here and you can explore more what they are doing as well. And then it will help you a lot to map which theme that your innovation will be fit in. Now, matching fund. I'll give you a very brief background about matching fund because Mukesh will talk more about that in his section as well. So as mentioned, this grant is a matching grant, meaning that for every single dollar that the US government and all of the donors and founding partner give it to you, it's required for you to match it at a 1-to-1 ratio. In most of the case, in the past, it's more than 1-to-1. For example, it might be $1 for $5, $1 for $10, for example. And when we talk about matching, fund or matching grant or matching capital, it can be anything. It can be cash equivalents, or it can be in kind as well. But Mukesh will talk more about that in his section. So when you submit your budget in the full proposal stage or in the concept note, just give the number. Please bear in mind that this is the matching grant, and you will be asked to prove the amount of the US dollar that you match for each of the US dollar that we give to you as well. If you want to know more about the matching fund and matching grant, please refer to the matching grant and WIFREP support section. And if you want to know more about the pre-award requirement, please read Appendix 3. I mentioned earlier that there will be a lot of documents that we required during the pre-award stage. And in the Appendix 3, we list it all for you so you can get yourself ready when you are applying to this program. Now, the most important part, the evaluation criteria. So in the evaluation criteria and the concept note evaluation criteria in the next slide, you will see that there are 3 parts of the evaluation criteria. One is the innovation, second, business and finance, and last but not least, ESG. So as you can see that innovation, viability, and ESG have more percentage at 35% for each section, while we also equally pay attention to the business and financial viability as well. So basically, all of the evaluator will use this framework to evaluate your concept note and the full proposal. It is also good to note that in the full proposal stage, after we complete everything and during the period that we assess you, it will not be only us at the hub. We have the panel of experts called Regional Advisory Body, RAB. These are the expert in each of the fields that we invite and ask them to help us evaluate all of your application as well. And therefore, we can ensure that this process is fair because it's not only assessed by the hub staff, but also the real expert and external expert out there as well. Last but not least, in case you have been listening and you think, let's submit the concept note. And it's only 3 steps for you to do. First, you need to go to wifrep.org/apply-SSEA, like Southeast Asia, and then press enter. You will see a lot of things pop up in your face. You can click to see solicitation. You can click to see the recording of this webinar as well. But the most important part, you may want to click to apply now. So go to the website, click apply, and you will see the SurveyMonkey portal application page. And this is the 3rd step, or the last step that you need to do. You just need to submit and fill in with all of this all of the questions that we ask. And it should take you about 20 minutes or less around that to complete all of the questions that we have. And then after you submit everything, press enter and submit, you should see the confirmation page. And after you see this confirmation page, it means that your application has been submitted, and we will start evaluating your process right after that. We have a few questions about resubmitting and editing the submitted application. Unfortunately, we cannot allow that. However, you can submit the application again and we will consider the latest application that you submit. I think that's it from my end. If you have any question, please type in the chat box, and we'll try to respond as much as possible. I will now give the floor to Susmita and Mukesh for the FAQ section. Susmita and Mukesh, please.
Thank you, Bess. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So we'll just go through some of the points that have come as questions in the past and also could be a little confusing when you're applying. So would be good to have like clarity around some of these concepts. The first being the difference between customers and end users. Now, for different models, of course, you define customers and end users very differently. I think what needs to be kept in mind is that for the purpose of the program, our primary beneficiary or user in all cases is a smallholder farmer. And holder farmer could be male or female, but they are smallholder farmers. And for the model, for the kind of innovations we support, the actual impact or the benefit of the model should be going to the smallholder farmers. So for example, your customer could be a distributor or an institution or even a farmer who is buying the product. But your end users can be a larger group of farmers who are using the product. So it would be important for you to differentiate between customers and end users because the program uses this as a qualifying criteria to see at what level of scale you are at. And I think Bess mentioned about those qualifying criteria that you need to have at least 5,000 end users to qualify for the program. Now, how we look at end users, I'll just use an example to elaborate, and then maybe we can discuss it further in the Q&A session later if you have any more clarifications. So, for example, if I'm a farmer and I want, sorry, could everybody unmute? Thank you. If I'm a farmer and I buy a product from you, then I'm your customer. But there might be other people within my household, or there might be other people within my community who are directly using that product, whatever that innovation or that product is. Then the end users are going to be everybody who uses that product. If you are selling a product to a farmer producer organization, a group of farmers. Now, the farmer producer organization is your customer. So when you count your number of customers, it'll be say 5 FPOs or 6 FPOs or 10 FPOs. But your end users will be all the member farmers within the FPO who use your product or the innovation. So therefore, it's important to kind of differentiate between end users and customers. And for us, the end user number is of significant importance. And this is what we track even further once you join the program through our monitoring and evaluation process. We typically use average household size of 4 to calculate end users because we typically assume that a family of 4 benefits directly from that innovation. But depending on which country you are in, which region you are in, the model, the context of the innovation, you can apply a multiplier. And this will always be either a farmer or a local micro entrepreneur who's a part-time farmer, but also part-time working in the value chain. Next slide, please. Now, a few more concepts which will help you clarify how we look at the applications. Now, we look at water, energy, food nexus. The idea of nexus is important here because we are looking at interlinkages between water, energy, and food. So it could be either water for food, energy for food, or water and energy for food. Food being the core of the impact, and which is why it's linked to the smallholder farmer impact because they are both kind of interconnected. So actions in one area can have impact on the other areas. So there can be indirect connections as well, but it has to fall within the nexus. And to be more clear in your business model, if the clearer you are in highlighting that nexus, like how is your innovation leading to water saving or energy saving or energy efficiency for food production, the better you fit into the program. So yeah, just be a little mindful about clarifying that for the reader when you make your application. Now, this model refers to the way you create, deliver, and capture value for the smallholder farmers. You do not have to be a for-profit, but you have to be a self-sustainable model where you are using the proceeds or you're using the revenues, you're using the finances from the business to be able to run the business. Yes, you might look at capital for expansion, for growth. You might need external financing for some capital expenses, but overall unit economics level, you are able to see either currently or in the next few years, you have a plan to get to a point where your business is a self-sustainable model. And if you have any confusion around how you want to kind of look at this, for some of you who may not have done this before, you could look at the business model canvas to kind of ideate and structure your thoughts before you apply to the concept. We also have a focus on the base of pyramid population, which is what Bess was mentioning before. In that, just to kind of give a little clarity on it, we are referring to a market which has a very low level of income. And the program defines it as people who come under an income threshold of $2 to $6 per day or $3,000 per annum. But depending on the country you are in, you could elaborate a little further in your concept note, like how do you classify base of the pyramid, and it could be not based on income, but other kinds of indicators as well. And we're happy to explore that with you. Next. ESG has already been talked about by Bess, and he's mentioned how we look at ESG criteria. Now, this is important not as a good to have feature, but there is a specific scoring weightage assigned to ESG. And it's because we want to support innovations which are able to create sustainable business models while being environmentally sustainable and being able to impact women and base of the pyramid populations. So on the environmental side, some examples could be how well you are able to manage water resources, how well is the innovation able to is able to build climate resilience for the farmers. Whether it's in space of adaptation or mitigation, clarifying the environmental aspect or benefits of it. And then again, on the social side, focusing on gender, BOP, and on the governance side, having very strong team structures, decision-making abilities with local teams who are accountable for managing the operations on the ground. You can also look at the ESG guidance for more clarity on how you might want to explain your business model. Slide, please. Now I would like to hand it over to my colleague, Mukesh, and he will take you through the grant management. Thank you.
Thank you, Shashmita. And just to give a very brief, the key points relating to this grant. The grant mechanism for this V4F award will be a cost reimbursement based grant, meaning that we will be reimbursing the cost which are incurred by the awardee. The awardee can submit a monthly or quarterly invoice with related supporting documents for reimbursement. And we will be, this can be mentioned in the grant agreement, like about the frequency of the invoicing. We will also require the matching funds proof that you are meeting the matching requirements. The invoice which need to be prepared should be in accordance in line with the approved budget, because the budget will have approved cost categories and amounts, your invoice should be matching with the same breakup. We need a reasonable assurance that you have secured the matching funds requirement. Once you have secured the matching funds requirement, only then we will be able to release any funds under this grant. Securing matching requirement, for an example, it can be you have a contract or a MOU with any donor other than V4F donor. So this can be considered as a reasonable assurance that your matching fund requirement is met. And there are several questions on the grant, on the matching funds. So I'll try to explain little bit on the matching funds. The matching funds can be in cash or in kind. Any matching contribution, this is generalized as per the USAID regulations, that any matching contribution must meet all of these criteria. Number one is that whatever matching contribution you are showing, it should be verifiable from entity's record. Because if for the audit purposes, if there is audit tomorrow, so the whatever matching documents, proofs you have, they should be auditable. Any contribution which you are showing as the matching contribution for this grant, it should not be shown as the matching contribution to any other federal award. Meaning, if you are, say, doing another USAID funded project, so and you are showing something as a contribution or matching fund for that project, the same amount, the same thing cannot be shown as contribution for this. That whatever matching funds you are showing, that they are necessary and reasonable for the accomplishment of the program activities of V4F project. That it is not that you have a program which is unrelated to the V4 activities, may not be considered as a matching contribution. This amount of matching fund or the award or contract or grant you may have, it should not be paid by V4F donors. This is the whatever matching contribution you are showing should be provided in your program budget. Like as best clearly explained in earlier slides, that if your program, if you are asking for 100,000 for this program funding, so you need to show 100,000 at least as the matching fund, and your total program cost is 200,000. The matching contribution should be conforming to the provisions of 2 CFR 200.306 and ADS 303. So before we issue a grant to any awardee, you must be able to demonstrate the matching funds, that you will be able to meet the matching fund requirement. What is a matching fund? If I just want to summarize, it can be a cash or non-cash resource that you want to use for the financing of this project along with the grant funds. This resource can be your own organization's resource. It can be any governmental funding or any other source other than the V4F donors. Entity must maintain the supporting document for matching contribution. If I give you a very brief supporting documents, it may be like the MOU or the contract which you have signed with the other agency, a proof of receiving funds, or proof of, if it is from your own contribution, then proof of introducing those funds in the business. So there, I know there can be, means for those innovators who have not done the matching funds earlier, maybe you may have some questions, and we are here to respond to those questions. Thank you very much. And now we can move to the Q&A.
I can take some of these questions.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, so I think there were questions around whether universities or academia can apply. Yes, you can, but you have to meet the criteria that we discussed before. Can we build a consortium with cooperatives and support them to apply for V4F? Yes, but you have to again look at the model and the sustainability criteria that we had in mind. Yes, NGOs can also lead consortium bids, so that's allowed. Next slide, please. Like Mukesh ji mentioned before, that the grant cannot be used for capital expenditures valued more than $5,000 per unit, or to buy any equipment from China. But outside of these two rules, you can definitely support rice processing equipment and technical support from you. But I think one thing to keep in mind is that the grant is not meant for you to take the money and deploy only based on this capital. It's meant to sustain and grow your business. So yes, some part of it can go into working capital, but there are other components to expanding a business, like expanding your team, expanding your geographical presence, and so on. So think of it as a holistic package. Say, for example, you need a certain amount of capital to grow from your current numbers to 2x or 3x. And this is a part of that capital pool, and kind of think of deploying it accordingly. Can you provide further clarification about kinds of funds that are eligible to match the V4F grant? Could we include after sales service, local government subsidies, communities? Yes. Community contributions, yes. Matching grants can include both cash and non-cash resources. And I think in the chat also there is a question which is similar to this. If we can use administrative costs like salary, staff, and transport costs for in-kind contribution, and I think that's allowed, right, Mukesh? That's allowed.
Yes, correct, Sushmita. We can allow them, provided it is like if you are showing a person as a matching, your matching contribution, if you hire that person for the V4F program, or if the person is doing the V4F program related activity. On a local government subsidies, yes, they can be considered as the matching grant.
Next slide, please. The customer base, yes, has the O-CFI mentions it will not consider projects without demonstrated customer base. Does this mean the base must be linked to food and agriculture? Yes, the customer of the products must be linked to agriculture. If you have not had the clear ESG impact, but are in the process, can we apply? Yes, you can. We don't just look at what has been the impact so far, but also the potential of impact and the intent or the plan you have in place to scale your impact on environment, social, and governance factors. So yes, and there must be some plan to meaningfully integrate it so that as you grow as a business, the impacts also are also growing in the same scale. You accidentally submitted the Survey Monkey form with incomplete information and would like to retract it and resubmit. You are not allowed to retract it, but you can resubmit as Bess mentioned earlier, and we will consider your latest application. So that is possible. And you can drop an email to v4fasiabids@retrotech.com to let us know if you have resubmitted. Yeah, I think we have covered these questions here, Bhutan. We've covered all of this. So maybe we can take the questions from the chat now. Let's do that. Let me read out the questions and then Bess, you and Mukesh can answer.
Yeah, thank you, Susmita. Thank you, Mukesh, for all of your FAQ section as well. We'll go through the submitted questions. You should also already find the email of the country coordinator. So please reach out to them or any partner of us in each of the country. You can ask about the program itself. You can also ask for contact of the local innovator in your country as well. However, for the procurement perspective, if you want to ask about the application of or concept note submission of O-CFI, please send email to the wefref@teratech.com. And we will make sure that the information that we share to you will be shared to all of the applicants as well. This is just to make sure that you will stay eligible to apply and submit your concept note. So reach out to them, perfect, and ask about the program. But if you have any question about the application, please send the email to wefref@teratech.com. As Tatang Freeman and the team has already responded to you, you can find the recording and also the solicitation document on our website. So you can go to www.wefref.org/apply-south like SSEA. So, and you will find the solicitation. You can download it from there as well, so you can have it offline. I think there's a question about NGO being part of consortium. Yes, there's no restrictions. You can partner with the NGO as well and in your consortiums. And I think one question for you, Mukashji, there's one question about the grant. Can grant through the government be considered and qualified as a matching grant? You may want to take that one. Yes.
Thank you, Bessa. Yes, the grant through any local government or any through government can be qualified as matching grant, provided it is not the V4F donors. Meaning it is a local government or any other government funded activity.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mukashji. And is there, I think there's one question about the last date of applied. There's basically no last date of applied. However, there's the key difference between call for innovation and open call for innovation. So there's no last date of apply for open call for innovation, and that's why we call it open. However, we strongly encourage you to apply it as soon as possible. And the reason is because we will start assessing the application as we go. So therefore, the sooner that you submit your application, your concept note, you'll be reviewed first, and therefore and therefore you hear the results sooner. So I think that that's another question about the minimum amount of the grant. So there's no minimum amount of the grant, and about the maximum on average is about 200,000. But the exact amount of the grant will be assessed and given based on the needs of your scalability plan, and also subject to the available fund and grant that we have in the pool as well. So, and that's also another reason why you should, submit your application as soon as possible. So,
there are two questions on the finance. If you permit, I can take those questions.
Please.
So somebody has a question, do you have financial guidelines for grantees, or we will apply own financial policies and procedures? A grantee will apply own financial policies and procedures. Surely we will be reviewing those policies and procedures while conducting the pre-award survey, ensuring that it meets the donor requirements.
Sounds good. The matching fund, there's the one question about matching fund from GIZ, and as Mukesh mentioned, the government of Germany is part of the founding partner for WeFref, so therefore it might not be considered. So the matching fund should be someone that's not from the founding partner that we presented on the first presentation slide. All right. So for the country coordinator, we have already shared the list of their contact detail. However, if you have any question about this application and the process, please send it to WeFref asiabits@teratech.com, and you can change the slide to the slide after this as well, and you can see the contact detail of our WeFref Teratech Asiabit. You may want to change the slide to the next slide.
Question
Here we go.
on
All right, and then there are questions about guidelines on finance and environmental sustainability. Yes, if you are selected as a grantee, in fact, you will be required to develop the EMMP and MMR. So therefore, you'll be required to comply with the environmental sustainability compliance of USAID. So therefore, you will need to submit the progress report, and there might be some guideline and policy that you need to develop to ensure that you stay compliant. And we can share some template example of the policy that you can use to develop your very own environmental compliance guideline as well. Similar to the financing side, as part of the pre-award survey and the compliance, there might be some guideline and policy on finance that you need to develop, and Mukesh can share some example of templates to you as well.
There's one question based
Please.
on whether whether an applicant can apply if they have the enterprise has a track record, but the innovation is new. So currently the innovation has very limited end users, but the enterprise has a track record and maybe other.
Right, I think that's a very interesting case, and we can't assess that on a case-by-case basis. It depends on the scale of your new innovation. So I think if the new innovation, of course, it must link to WeFref. It must link to water, energy, food nexus. And if it's so, I think you can submit the concept note to us first, and we can assess it on a case-by-case basis. For example, we may need to assess how can you ensure that this new innovation that's linked to WeFref can scale, and how can your long track record of the other innovation can support the scalability of this new WeFref innovation. But it is hard to say yes and no at these stages, but I would encourage you to submit the concept note if the new innovation has a clear link with WeFref. And you may want to share and show as well in the concept note how the track record of your current pipeline can help scaling this innovation of WeFref.
Is the matching grant from GIZ also counted as origins from BMZ because it's the same government? Or? Yeah,
so the government, it cannot be considered as matching fund for this case because BMZ is part of, and the government of, let's say the government of Germany is part of this pool of founding partners. So therefore, the matching fund that we can consider must be from the non-WeFref donors, meaning the funding from the government of Germany might not be counted in this case. So let's see. I think we have one question that Mukesh, maybe you will to take. If the grant is due to cover like monthly expense and human resource and software subscription as well, and will this be refunded through the grant? And I think the question is how the grant can be used. Can it be used for human resource or software That's the first question. And the second question is, what is the reimbursement process? Will it be monthly? Will it be quarterly? And how are we going to deal with that? So Mukesh, in case you want to take that one.
Yeah, thank you, Bessar. Yes, the grant can be utilized for covering HR cost and softwares. As far as the refund is concerned, as I mentioned in my key point slide, the amount will be paid on quarterly or monthly basis, and this period will be specified in the grant agreement, depending on what are your cost items, depending on what is your amount of award and how much amount you are expecting to spend every month. So accordingly, we will be defining that it can be monthly or quarterly. That will be the period of reimbursement.
Sounds good. The follow-on question on that is about the evidence and document required for them to confirm the matching fund. What kind of document that they need to submit to confirm their matching fund, please?
For the matching funds, there are two things. One can be like to prove that you have the matching, you are meeting the matching requirements. It can be if you have like some agreement or contract which you have signed with any government or local government, if you have subsidies from other government, if you have, so whatever can be the resource. So proving the first step is that ensuring that you are meeting the matching requirement is one. Second is the documentary evidence. So depending on what kind of funds you are showing as matching funds, the evidence will depend on that. Like for example, if you have a MOU where you will be given certain amount of funds by the government. So receiving those, having that MOU fully executed is one, and receiving the funds, the documentary evidence of receiving the funds from the government is the second evidence. So what kind of matching contribution you are showing, that evidence will depend on it. For example, if you are showing your personal cost or HR cost as the matching requirement, if your company has hired 3 people who are not charged to the project funds, and instead you are funding those 3 people from your company. So it can be, the evidence can be their employment, the evidence can be their monthly payments which you are paying to them, or the time sheet which is created by those people. So that can be the evidence, and we can share this in greater details for each kind of expense depending on what matching contributions are shown.
That's good. I think there's follow-on question about the matching grants. So I think there's one question around the support and other grant from ADB or the World Bank. Can it be considered? I think the answer is yes, as long as it's not the WeFref donor, we can consider that as the matching fund. But Mukesh, please confirm.
Yes, that is correct, Bess.
That was good. Thank you, Mukesh. Any question that we may miss? Drop record before I check that. All right. Any other question from the participants? I believe we cover all of your questions already, and we actually right on time. So if you have any follow-on question, please feel free to submit it to WeForFAsiaBit at tatertech.com. So, but before you click leave this session, please take 1 minute just to complete the post-webinar survey. So please you can click the link in the chat, or you can use your phone to scan the QR code on this slide as well. So We hope that we will see your concept note being submitted through the portal of We4F very soon. As if you have any question about the We4F application process, concept note, eligibility, or any other questions, please feel free to send the email to we4fasiabits@tradertech.com. And if you want to download any documents, if you want to see this recording again, you can go to we4f.org/apply-SSEA. So thank you everyone again for joining us, and hope that we will see your application very soon. Thank you so much. Have a good day and have a good week.